Hello all and welcome to the Rails board meeting. This is Friday, November 21st, 2025, and I'm Gwen, President of the Rails board, and I call this meeting to order at 1 p.m. Stacy, will you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott.
Here.
Jean Carroll.
Here.
Jennifer Kutchell.
Here.
Megan Gove.
Here.
Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Ron Hallahan.
Here.
Jen Hovanek.
Here.
Amanda Kowalski. Rob Parks.
Here.
Emily Porter. Carolyn Sennett. Alex Fancina. Karen Wojtek. Yolande Wilburn.
Here.
Catherine Anakowski. Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. We will handle guests and public comments at the same time. Let's start with guests and public comments in the Galesburg Public Library.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Sharon Swanson, Rails.
Kate Niehoff, Rails.
Stacy Palmisano, Rails.
Alan Skrowski, Rails.
Ryan Hevel, Rails.
Joe Philippek, Rails.
Are there any guests and public comments in Burr Ridge?
Ann Slaughter, Rails.
Layla Heath, Rails.
Dan Bostrom, Rails.
Nemeth, Rails.
All right, Stacy, will you read the names of the guests via Zoom?
We have Mark Hatch, Sam Daly, Kendall Orison, Mandy Saya from Illinois State Library, Diana Rush, Liz Toft from Illinois State Library, and Carolyn Chesla.
You forgot me, Stacy. Margie Schmidt.
And Mark Schmidt.
Thank you. Are there any public comments from any Zoom participants? Stacy, did you receive any public comments by email?
I did not receive any public comments via email.
Thank you. We will now move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to move any item to the regular agenda for further discussion? In order to accommodate our guest speaker, we will move item 9.1, overview of academic libraries, to directly following the Illinois State Library report, agenda item 7.4. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Move. Second.
Moved by Parks and seconded by Go. Thank you. Stacy, will you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott,
Yes.
Jean Carroll,
Yes.
Jennifer Kutchell,
Yes.
Megan Gove,
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Ron Hallahan,
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek,
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski,
Yes.
Rob Parks,
Yes.
Emily Porter, Carolyn Sennett,
Yes.
Alex Fancina,
Yes.
Karen Wojtek,
Yes.
Yolande Wilburn,
Yes.
and Catherine Anakowski.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is Sharon with the Rails financial report.
Thank you, Gwen. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, I should say. I'm still on morning time after driving to Galesburg today. So let me start off. The October 31st general fund unassigned cash and investment balance grew this month. We're at approximately 32.5 million. This would fund approximately 27.7 months of budgeted fiscal year 2026 operations. General revenues through October were a little over 12.75 million and were nearly 10.2 million above budget. This is primarily due to the earlier than anticipated receipt of the largest of our two payments for our area and per capita grants. This well over $9.9 million was received early in October, and it's the portion of our APC grant that comes from the general fund from the state of Illinois. It was received nearly 2 months earlier than we had anticipated, and then we've seen over the past couple of fiscal years. The second payment of a little over 1.9 million is paid from IMLS funding that's awarded to the Illinois State Library, and that is normally received between February and June of the fiscal year, so much later. These above budget revenues were also due to greater than anticipated participation in the EBSCO group purchase. Interest income continues to remain higher than the amount that we had budgeted. And at our October meeting, the Federal Reserve once again passed a 1/4 percentage point interest rate cut. This is the second one in a row that they've done. This moved the target federal borrowing rate to between 3.75% and 4%. So we should see our interest rates that we're getting on our accounts slowly move towards that point now. And I did want to also mention Rails disposed of a third previously decommissioned vehicle during October. This brought us to a total of $11,580 in profits that are recorded in other revenue from the sale of these three vehicles. Rails's general fund expenditures through October were just over $6 million, and these were just over $355,000 below budget. This is primarily due to below budget personnel cost, just normal hiring delays for several open positions over the course of the first 4 months of the fiscal year. We're still recruiting for a few at this point. We also, this below budget amount was also due to the blended increases for our health, dental, vision, and workers' compensation insurance that won't take effect until January. We also had below budget contractual services expenditures. This is from the normal delay in processing the invoices for our Find More Illinois platform vendor, as well as the normal weekly delay in receiving the invoices from our delivery service outsourcing contractor. Fuel prices have remained consistently below the price that we had anticipated, which have kept fuel surcharges from our delivery outsourcing vendor lower than we had anticipated when we had finalized our budget. We also had below budget supplies, postage, and printing expenditures. This was due to the timing of the organization-wide laptop replacement. The laptops have now been received and they were paid for early in November and they came in under budget, which is great news. Below budget travel and continuing education expenditures were from the timing differences for library visits, travel, and training that were budgeted to happen throughout the fiscal year, as well as some conferences that had unknown dates at the time the budget was finalized. We also have below budget vehicle expenditures, so that due to the normal invoicing delay from our fuel card provider and also fuel prices falling to $2.86 per gallon at the tax-free rate in October. This was compared to the $3.14 that we had budgeted for the entire fiscal year. So we're doing very well in this area. These below budget expenditures were partially offset by above budget equipment, rental, repair and maintenance due to a timing difference between the budgeted and actual payment for the multi-factor authentication platform for Rails, that Rails staff uses to access all of our systems. Buildings and grounds expenditures were also above budget. This is due to the timing of the lease payments for 3 facilities that we lease, as well as the increase in the Bolingbrook cleaning contract for the addition of Suite D, and the extra one-time flooring and bathroom cleaning services for our Burr Ridge and Bolingbrook facilities. On November 3rd, Rails received the full amount of our awards for both the L2 development grant. This was $125,859, and the World Language Cataloging Services grant, $123,854. So we have received both of those 2 special grants that we were waiting for from the Illinois State Library. During October, Rails purchased additional components for the key fob systems that have been and are currently being installed in both our Rockford and Coal Valley facilities to bring those facilities into uniformity with the rest of our facilities. And we also paid for and received the last, the 2 Ford Transit vehicles that were budgeted for fiscal year 2026 to replace 2 of our aging delivery vehicles in our fleet. The only additional vehicle purchase at this point expected for fiscal year 2026 is the replacement of a staff vehicle for Burr Ridge. And that is pretty much all that I have for you this month. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I said or maybe did not say?
Thank you, Sharon. Moving on to the reports. The report from the Rails president. I'd just like to thank the Galesburg Public Library for giving us a great tour this morning and hosting us here today. It's wonderful to see a great public library that's done such a wonderful job with their new building. Are there any additions or questions on the committee reports that were included in the packet? All right, moving on to Monica and the Rails report.
Thank you, Gwen, and good afternoon, all. I just want to echo Gwen's thanks to the Galesburg Public Library for hosting us today. The tours were really fantastic, and it was so exciting to see all the new services that they're offering their patrons along with this amazing building. So really great day in Galesburg. I do want to highlight some of the things that were in the report, especially the first section of federal funding and IMLS updates, because we haven't done that in the board meeting for a little while. So I did want to note that this is all based on a message that was sent out by the American Library Association's Public Policy and Advocacy Group on Thursday, November 14th, which sort of details what the end of the federal government shutdown means for libraries and this federal funding. So as noted here in your packet, funding for libraries, including programs administered by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, has restarted at this point, and employees have returned to work. IMLS is resuming administering state library grants that support interlibrary lending, shared digital resources, and other vital services through state library agencies. As you all know, Congress did not agree on a new budget for fiscal year 2026. What instead they agreed to do is to continue temporary funding all of the programs at last year's funding levels. So currently libraries are not losing IMLS funds, but when the government reopens, which it has, IMLS funding continues at fiscal year 2025 levels. So this piece only funds 3 of 12 appropriation bills for fiscal year 2026, which does mean that Congress needs to pass 9 spending bills or face another shutdown on February 1st, 2026. So at this point, we're kind of watching and waiting to see what happens in February. And until then, we're sort of in this same space. I know that ALA did encourage folks to take a look at their advocacy materials, speak to legislators about this issue, and make sure that it's still staying top of mind. And I know a lot of you have been attending some of the recent library legislative days that we'll talk on later, but keeping those kind of federal pieces in mind is also an important consideration for all of us. We did want to note some of the things that were in the Illinois Library Association's Public Policy Committee this month. So you know the legislative priorities for this year, but in addition to that legislative agenda, there are some groups that are being formed. 2 you have heard about before. The first one is to have a study group on personal property replacement tax disbursements, and the second is a study group on FOIA, because there were so many proposals that were received that were FOIA related. New this month is that there is also a look at potential revisions to the Library Records and Confidentiality Act. It's been a while since that was renovated, and there have been some discussions, particularly around kind of immigration enforcement and what is allowable information to be released, that it seemed like a good time to take another look at that Library Records and Confidentiality Act here in Illinois. So Public Policy Committee is going to be doing that. I know Layla is in Burr Ridge, and I want to especially thank her and Anna Beam and Ola Gronsky from our Rails team that were also very involved in the creation of a special section in the ILA Legislative Meetup handout. For those of you who've been able to see it, there's a whole kind of center section all about understanding the ebook issue that libraries face. I think it's very clear and did a really good job of being able to highlight exactly what those financial considerations are, as well as contract considerations, in a way that people from outside libraries can understand. So definitely encourage you to take a look at that if you have the opportunity when you're attending those upcoming meetups. We did have a Rails member update on Wednesday, November 12th. That recording is available online, but it's a great one to take a look at. And in addition to the recent Rails member update, we also had a recent webinar on November 14th, or November 17th, excuse me, on the libraries and immigration customs enforcement. There were 400 folks who registered for that, and 294 attended, which is a pretty big attendance, especially for something that was put together very quickly. I know Kate will be speaking later, but I want to especially thank her and her team for getting that together based on the needs of our members. We also released an updated memo from Ansel Glink to go along with that, to update the memo that we originally released back in January, which in and of itself was an update of a previous version. So we want to thank Ansel Glink for their quick attention, and also for our guests on that webinar from the Vernon Area Library who talked about the procedures that they have created. So a really great event, and I would encourage you you, if you haven't, to take a look through our continuing education archive to take a look at that one as well. In addition, the fiscal year 2027 LSAP support grants have been announced. As you know, they have been announced and announced to all 6 LSAPs on October 31st. That is a formula that distributes a total of $2.25 million across all 6 LSAP organizations. Ann Slaughter, I know, is in Burr Ridge, and she will be speaking more in January around the LSAPs, but we are very grateful for their partnership and cooperation to support resource sharing across Illinois. Finally, I wanted to highlight a picture on the 3rd page. You may see our own Joe Philippek with Secretary of State Alexi Janulius at a recent equalization aid grant formula announcement. That was a really great day. Joe, anything you would note about that day or things you want to
A lot of
highlight?
speakers, people from libraries who are really going to be impacted by the equalization grants. Where we were in North Chicago, they're going to be receiving $200,000 in additional funding through these equalization grants. And the number of Rails libraries that qualify is growing from 4 or 5 to 40, 45 libraries that in areas where that tax base is really low. So this is impactful, and it's a change to the law. So this is not a one-time appropriation. This is going to be sustained funding for libraries.
We are so grateful for the support of the Secretary of State and the Illinois State Library, and this is a great expansion, a great day to celebrate. And Layla, Joe, and I also had the opportunity to meet with the Cooperative Computer Services, or as we generally know them as CCS, at their governing board meeting in November. We were there to answer questions related to their participation in Find More Illinois. I want to thank them for having us there, both to share our experience and our vision, as well as to answer questions. It was a really great day to meet with the leadership of that group.
Annika, I don't know what CCS is.
It is one of the 6 LSAPs that we serve here in Illinois. So they primarily cover the northern.
I didn't make the connection between the two.
It's absolutely. So that group is definitely a huge participant in Illinois resource sharing. And then I did want to highlight, because our own Rails board member, Yolande Wilborn, and I were able to participate in a Public Library Association Leadership Academy panel about the importance of resiliency and leadership. It was a really great day, and I think a nice chance to speak with some up and coming Illinois library leaders, including many who were there from Illinois. Anything you would want to note about that, Yolande?
Great to see.
Yeah.
Generation of library leaders. So, and one of my former people was there. One of my former assistant city managers was there from Torrance, California. So it's nice to see Evan again as well.
It was a really great day, and we want to thank PLA for inviting us to be there and be part of that discussion as well. I know that you all got to see all the information about conferences, which we did talk about last month, so I won't highlight it too heavily, but there is a link of all the Rails presentations that happened at the 2025 ILA annual conference. So it was pretty exciting to see. You can see how many board members and staff members participated at the conference this year and sharing their knowledge. So I did want to encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't already. And then finally, just wanted to note that our 2026 My Library Is grants applications are now open. They're open through Friday, January 30th. We want to encourage all Rails libraries to apply. They can apply for up to $5,000 to help to tell their story. And there's great information online for any library who may not have applied for this before and wants to get a good sense of what a great application should look like. So I want to encourage everybody to take a look at that. Can't wait to see what comes in. With that, I will take any questions, anything that appears in the report, or other questions or comments you have. Yes, Carolyn.
I just wanted to pass along that the Wilmette Public Library was very appreciative of the updated Ansel Glink memo on immigration, and several staff members did attend the webinar, which they found very helpful.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I will talk a little bit later, but our village was hit by Operation Midway Blitz, or whatever it was called. So
many libraries and communities in our area, certainly. Thank you, Carolyn.
I just wanted to second that in the legislative thing that was about the cost and everything, I really agree that it was really well done. It was really easy to, I was sitting next to a non-library person. And so I, was pointing out, and they were like, oh my God, what? So yeah, it was just really well done, really easy to read, very clear, side by side statistics. So yeah, I really appreciated that.
It's so hard because it's such a complex issue to be able to
It is.
explain it in a way that a layperson can understand. So I know we all appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Other questions? Right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Monica. Next on the agenda is the Rails Service of the Month with Rails Consulting and Continuing Education Team.
So I'm Kate Niehoff. I'm the Director of Consulting and Continuing Education, and I'm joined by Margie Schmidt and Diana Rush on Zoom. We call ourselves the CE team because consulting and continuing education is just too much. But we'll just give you a brief overview of what we do and what we're responsible for, and then we'll let you know about a few of the projects we're working on this year. So on the consulting side, we are kind of like the reference desk for library staff, and we ask questions about everything, or we answer questions about everything under the sun. But we listed kind of like the top 5 topics that we get questions about most on our report in your packet. We connect people with one another all the time because we get a lot of those legal questions. We refer people to the FOIA and OMA hotline that Ansel Glink runs for free. We have our HR Source discounted membership program for those libraries with lower operating budgets so that they can afford HR help. And then Diana also keeps our consultants directory up to date. So if libraries feel like they need to contact an external consultant, it's a really good starting place just to kind of see what's out there. And then we're also responsible for coordinating training for Rails staff. So most recently, this was a CPR training that Diana put together for staff at a couple of our different service centers. We're putting together the in-service day that's going to take place in May with a whole team from across the organization. That's always a really fun day. And then probably the biggest part of our job is continuing education. And Margie's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Kate. So I want to draw your attention to, in the board packet, you should have a paper with all our faces on it. And to the right-hand side, there should be a list of top 10 events from this past year. This list really highlights the depth of what matters to library staff today. What stands out is that these topics resonate across all levels of library staff and all types of libraries. So that would be public, academic, school, and special. It's a clear indicator that our PD, or professional development, is serving a wide range of member needs, but just by looking at that list, you can see the variety. One of the strongest indicators for professional development came from our Catalyst program this year. We received an exceptionally high number of submissions. And we love that enthusiasm. It shows how deeply staff across the system really want opportunities for leadership development. But because Catalyst only has a limited number of spots, we feel strongly that staff who weren't selected should have access to meaningful leadership training as well. So that's a major priority for us this next coming year in 2026. We're also expanding our work in 2 other key areas that you may have heard of: AI education and web accessibility. These topics came to us from our members constantly telling us they need more guidance on those specific issues and laws that are changing. So we try to adapt to fill that need. We have 3 major learning series launching next year. So a leadership development series, an AI series, and web accessibility series, as I mentioned. And these came directly from member feedback and professional conversations that on a broader scale that takes place between myself and my other coworkers. I wanted to tell you a little bit about where we get our CE ideas from. And it comes from a mix of sources. We obviously get feedback directly from our members, which we take very seriously and try to fulfill that need as quick as possible. Then we also try to rapid respond to time-sensitive issues, so things that are happening on a larger global scale, or at least in the United States. So for example, the Narcan training mentioned and the immigration enforcement that was mentioned. I'm so glad so many of you found that helpful. It was helpful to me as well. And then we also individually partake in professional networks that we stay active in. For example, I'm the governing board secretary of Laconia, if you've heard of that group. Alex is on that governing board with me as well. And then I'm also the president of the Laconia Technology section. So it's a section mainly focused on technology and learning and AI for library staff across Illinois as well. Diana has a role on ALA's online learning roundtable, which she stays active in, and Kate's monthly meetings with CE coordinators from state libraries across the country. So we try to stay informed multiple ways. I also want to highlight our strong attendance growth. Compared to 2 years ago, our average registration per CE event is up by about 50 people, and that's just from 2 years ago, even including our intentionally smaller learning labs we've created, which is something new we tried this year. If we removed those small labs from the data, the increase would be even higher. And now I'll hand things over to Diana, who can share a few other initiatives we have coming up.
Thanks, Margie. Hi, everyone. I'm Diana Rush, part of the CE team here at Rails. I'm just going to talk about two things. First, I'd like to give a short update about professional development hours. Now, these or PDH. So these are hours that teacher librarians need to keep their license renewed. So they need to acquire 120 hours every 5 years. So Rails became an approved PDH provider through ISB, or Illinois State Board of Education, in May 2024. And we have been offering PDH for certain events since then. And then also, I just wanted to say, in addition to CE, Jessica Stilova, our member engagement specialist here at Rails, is also offering PDH for some of her events as well. But the nice thing about that I would like to talk about is that we have been able to streamline our process in offering those hours. So it was just a very time-consuming, laborious process with a lot of forms. But we are now using PD Plus. This is ISB's online interactive system. So whereas previously we had to fill out and save multiple forms for every event that Rails offered PDH for, we can now enter that information and save it all in one centralized location. And additionally, PD Plus also, instead of us sending out the required evaluation and forms and then a completion form, which serves as the actual professional development hour, we can just click on a button called Verify Attendance, and that automatically triggers the PD Plus system to send out the completion form. So thereby that eliminates a lot of busy work and alleviates the burden of saving every file and name associated with an event. It's just all centrally located, much easier to access. And then one other thing related to PDH, we are starting to explore the possibility of offering PD hours for asynchronous learning. So currently, we only offer PDH for people who attend a live event or presentation. So we are discussing the logistics of what that would look like for the CE team if we were to start offering for asynchronous events. So that's PDH. And the other thing I'd like to talk to you about this afternoon is a new resource that Rails has recently, acquired, is our subscription to Niche Academy. Niche Academy, for those of you who don't know, is a subscription-based online learning platform that's designed specifically for libraries. It provides high-quality asynchronous training tailored to staff across a variety of roles and positions in the library organization. So a few, but not all benefits, but just a few benefits, again, is the asynchronous professional development. So staff can learn at their own schedule and at their own pace. Also, with this subscription, every staff member from every Rails member library will have access to the platform. So this significantly expands the professional development opportunities we can offer and complements our existing webinars and in-person events. But because we serve libraries across 26,000 square miles, Niche Academy gives us a powerful way to reach every corner of our service area. Let's see. Secondly, custom training creation. So this Niche Academy also gives us the ability to create and upload our own training materials, such as tutorials for e-resources, delivery processes, and other system-specific guidance. So this would ensure members have easy access to consistent, centralized information about Rails and the services we offer to our members. Let's see. So where we are now. So Kate, Margie, and myself are, I'm making a verb here, but we are sandboxing right now. So as we learn the back end of Niche Academy, our main priorities right now to get Niche Academy up and running are our own learning. So we're training ourselves on how to manage the back end of Niche Academy, including learning its tools and workflows, content management, and more. There is an enormous amount of material. It's kind of like walking into an Amazon warehouse and trying to figure out what is the best what is the best content for each area. So we are going to use our decades of librarian experience as we curate content. And topics range from library management and staff leadership to data literacy, genealogy, collection management. And then we also have like vendors also put training videos in there. So like EBSCO, Gale, Libby. So we're going to be looking at all of that content and vetting it. And then last but not least, well, actually two more things. Uploading Rails content. So we're going to be uploading some of our more popular webinars to this platform too. So to ensure that members can revisit these at any time. And then finally, we're going to be working closely with Brian Smith, our webmaster, and the IT team on the authentication process. So staff across every member library can seamlessly access this new resource. So our goal is to have Niche Academy available to members by spring 2026. So we're so excited to have this valuable addition to our PD resources and to our members. So thank you. And any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Two more quick things before we end that we're working on right now. One is Directors University on Demand. So I know a lot of you have heard of Directors University. This takes place mostly in person. Once a year. It's a collaboration between Rails and Heartland and ILA and the State Library. And because it's only once a year and it's in person, it's hard for a lot of people to attend. Some directors, when they start their jobs, can't go for close to a year, and they're missing out on that really essential training that they need for their jobs. And some can't make it at all because their libraries are too small. They'd have to shut their doors to get there for 3 days, or they might have childcare issues. So putting this kind of essential training that you need right when you take your director job online, available at any time, we felt was really important. So we've got a small collection right now in our CE archives, I think 7 training videos, but we're routinely adding more and we'll update via e-news. I'm sure eventually that will make its way on a Niche Academy too. But that's exciting. And then the other thing is Rails Catalyst that Margie mentioned, which is our leadership development program. And right now we think it's the only leadership development program in the state since before COVID. We had just an overwhelming response to it. 145 people applied, and considering that you had to write an essay for the application and you had to get a letter of support from your administration. I thought 145 is a really great number. So that kind of demonstrates the need and the interest right now. And also, as Margie said, we could only accept 48 people, but we got a really wonderful, diverse group from all over our service area. We've got directors, we've got middle managers, we've got school librarians, we've got emerging leaders. So that's been really great. We kicked off the program at the ILA conference in Rosemont and had everybody in one room, and there was just so much excitement. Everybody there just seemed really committed to putting a lot into the program so that they could get a lot out of the program. And then we had our first online session this month, and we're going to have 5 more sessions. They're going to learn about self-leadership, leading others, and then what our facilitator is calling leading across the system, or leading the system, which is leading across departments. So it's exciting, and we're really looking forward to seeing what happens with that and hopefully doing it again next year. So that is all we have. Do you all have any questions?
Questions, I will just say kudos. Thank you for doing that. I think training is huge. It's a big part of what many libraries cannot afford. And so having it be available through RELS is really, thank you.
And I'd just add to that, we just completed a strategic plan, and one of the pieces of that was to provide more staff development. So now I have a free way to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and also, just like, thank you so much. Every time I have like a random idea float through my brain and I email Kate, she like is really excited to actually like carry out these insane ideas that I have.
The more insane, the better.
I also just want to, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say the amount that the 3 of you are able to accomplish for the top half of this state is just, it's so impressive, and the quality of what you offer is, it's just so, it's so important and meaningful for the librarians, and to be able to attend these sessions and just the new initiatives you're putting forward is just, thank you for all of your efforts.
Thanks, Catherine.
There's so much that this team does, and they're so responsive to feedback. I think you saw a lot of that today. I think one of the things that we wanted to know was how important your feedback was to the development of things like the leadership program that happened this year. I know we met with this group around this time last year, and it was really helpful as Kate worked harder with our facilitator about really trying to decide what those priorities should be and how we should move them forward. So in addition to being able to give kudos to this amazing team, I also want to thank our board for being so engaged with these processes, and especially new initiatives, and being supportive of moving them forward.
Well, thank you, Kate, Margie, and Diana. I'm looking forward to the Niche Academy and learning more about that soon. Next on the agenda is a report from the Illinois State Library, and today we have Mandy Saya.
Hello, everyone, and happy Friday. I've just got a couple of updates for you. First, we are pleased to announce that Laura Keys has recently joined the ISL staff as the state data coordinator. Laura brings with her experience from her time as director at the Dunlap Public Library, the Freeport Public Library, and as a member of the ILA Executive Board. She'll be working with public libraries on the IPLAR and traffic survey, and with the Institute of Museum and Library Services for the annual submission of the Illinois IPLAR data to the Federal Public Library Survey, the PLS. The school library per capita grants were due on October 15th and are in the final stages of review. Staff is reaching out to those schools that did not apply to find out why. In some cases, the district did not adopt the ALA right to read, but a few no longer have employees assigned to the library, which has a potential impact on system membership. And we will be reaching out to the systems with our findings as soon as that process is complete. And of course, the public library per capita and equalization grant aid is now open. And we have started receiving applications. I think as of today, we've gotten 35. And we are also fielding questions, of course, about the new equalization funding, which has been really exciting for a lot of these libraries. And we really appreciate both Rails and IHLS for participating at that event in North Chicago. So this is just, a little bit of a bright spot and good news for some of these libraries. It's a big deal. State library staff are going to be scheduling a lot of site visits with many public libraries over the next 12 months to monitor the use of grant funds. And we are really looking forward to seeing the good things that these libraries are doing with their grant funds in person. And of course, IMLS is open still, and we are in regular communication with them about everything related to grants that are funded through them. And so, of course, we'll be, communicating with the systems if we have any new updates from them. And finally, the bill to improve safety and security in libraries has passed. And the law will become effective January 1st, 2026. And we are currently piecing together what those grants are going to look like. So stay tuned for more details in 2026 on that. Hope everybody has a great holiday. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Mandy. So now we are going to item 9.1. where we are going to have the board development topic this month, an overview of academic libraries with our guest, Carolyn Cheslaw from Elmhurst University, also the president of the Illinois Library Association.
That's right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly and hope that it works. It worked earlier this morning, so fingers crossed. Can everybody see the slide okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, so I'm Carolyn Cheslaw, and as Gwen mentioned, I am the ILA president. I am also the director of the A.C. Buehler Library at Elmhurst University, and more recently, I was recently made an assistant dean for assessment and accreditation, and that's for the entire university, not just the library. So I'm so thrilled. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you about academic libraries in Illinois. My little asterisk next to my presentation title is that this does not represent every single academic library. This is meant as a snapshot. There are, of course, differences among many, many different institutions, but this will hopefully give you an idea of generally how we operate. So very quickly, my library path is a weird and winding one. Librarianship for me is a second career. I started library school after the birth of my daughter 20 years ago. So my very first job as a librarian, once I graduated with my MLIS, was as a teen services librarian at the New Lenox Public Library. And that was great because I was reading a ton of YA at the time, so that was perfect. I then was an adult services librarian at the Homewood Public Library. And while I was working there, a friend of mine that I actually met through Laconia, so I was happy to hear about that Laconia update, invited me to apply for a position at Prairie State College, which is a community college in the south suburbs. And so I began working there as an instruction librarian and an assistant professor, received tenure, was promoted to associate professor. And while I was there, the dean at the time left, and there were discussions about not having a dean over the library, and that would have had a lot of implications for how the library was run. And so I stepped up and I said, I volunteer as tribute. And so I became the Dean of Learning Resources and Assessment, which eventually started to include other things in my portfolio other than the library. And then after COVID, the opportunity here at Elmhurst University opened up to be the library director. And I was excited to to start working at a different type of institution. So Elmhurst University is a small private liberal arts school. So very generally, academic libraries internally look a lot like public libraries, right? We have the same sorts of departments that you have. We have people filling the same types of roles. Really, the difference is in how we are our external relationships with our institutions. So most colleges and universities have a unit that oversees student life. So the dorms and the cafeterias, student conduct and health, et cetera, and that lives under student affairs. And then there's a separate unit that oversees academics, and that obviously is academic affairs. And libraries typically live under this academic affairs unit. Now, I will say there are academic libraries out there across the country that live under student affairs, or actually just sort of live in another third space. But it's pretty typical that you see libraries under academic affairs, since their primary role on campus is to support student learning. Reporting structures definitely vary depending on the type of institution that you're at. At both schools that I've worked at, so the community college and now Elmhurst University, the library director or the dean reports directly to the vice president for academic affairs. In larger institutions, this position is known as a provost. So you can see at a larger institution, there may be another level of administration underneath the provost or VP of AA, and then the dean or director of the library would report to that level. So I was feeling a little salty when I made this slide. So academic library directors, and those of you in academic libraries will understand why. Academic library directors have advocacy as a key role in their position. So while libraries are essential to student success, and they are seen as an integral part of campus, right? They're often called the beating heart of a college campus. They're not a revenue generator, unlike, say, athletics, right? So with constantly rising costs of library materials and a large space or spaces that are necessary to house those materials, libraries are almost solely a spending location. And I mean, that's a fairly simplistic view of how we operate, as we do save students and faculty a good deal of money. But unfortunately, some administrators just do view libraries as money sinks, which is why library directors are constantly advocating up about the work that we do and the importance of our work. So what is that work? What do we provide? So obviously books and other materials. Some academic libraries have started getting into having a library of things similar to public libraries. Databases and research resources, of course. I will say that the bulk of my budget, aside from salaries and benefits, goes to databases and electronic resources. And then individual and group study spaces. We are that third space on campus, just as public libraries are the third space in society. We are that sort of small, isolated, not isolated, but we're a small version of society. So we act as that third space for our students. But we do so much more. We provide information literacy instruction. We offer interlibrary loan. We offer device access, so computer labs, printing, scanners, all sorts of technology, or we lend them out to students. Open educational resource initiatives often are housed within the library. It just makes sense for us to coordinate those initiatives on campus. Individualized research support. We meet with students, we meet with faculty on their research projects, and many, many, many more things that I didn't list on this slide, but there are a lot of things that we do. These are just a couple of things that I'm really, really proud of that we're doing at our library. So we do have an open educational resource program. It started in 2021. One of our librarians applied for an innovation grant here on campus for some seed funding. And we've our VP of Academic Affairs was kind enough to continue that funding. So we award $500 grants to faculty to replace their textbook with an open educational resource. So since we started the program, we have awarded 47 individual awards to 41 faculty for a total of $23,500 awarded. But we have impacted nearly 1,000 students, and we've saved them over $100,000 in textbook costs. So this, that initial savings from that single class is great, but when the impact really becomes clear is when faculty just use the OER again and again, and it just sort of compounds, and we get to see all of the students really being able to take advantage of those savings. The other thing that we've done this semester is provided sort of personalized support around mental health and then housing and food insecurity. It's shocking. Even before the government shutdown and SNAP benefits went away, how many students are housing and food insecure? And that's just not something that's ever in a university's budget. And so we have worked with our campus health and wellness staff to create a guide of resources, both local within Elmhurst and then Chicagoland, because we do have a good number of commuter students, to really help provide these resources for them to help them get through these really difficult periods in their lives, because we want them to not have to worry about food and housing. We want them to worry about coming to class and focusing on that and staying in school. So I'm really, really proud of our staff for having done this for our students. So I want to talk a little bit about how academic libraries are supported within Illinois. So just as PLA supports public libraries, ALA has ACRL to support academic libraries nationally. But we're extraordinarily lucky in Illinois to have CARLI. As a consortium, CARLI makes it possible for academic libraries to provide many, if not most, of those services that I showed you on that earlier slide. In fact, because of CARLI, some of the smaller schools that don't have very large budgets are really, that's how they do everything is with CARLI. So CARLI, provides access to ILDS, to Primo VE, which is our library management system. We use Alma. And then iShare, which is, I'm sure Rails is familiar with iShare. It's our academic shared catalog. I think at this point, gosh, there's 100, maybe 102 libraries that are part of CARLI. So we are able to just share our catalog with all of those institutions and provide students resources from them. They also have zero cost and subsidized databases that we're able to take advantage of. You can see they delivered $35.9 million worth of goods and services. I believe this was for 2024. iShare serves 537,000 students with access to over 37 million items. So it's almost impossible that we're not able to find something that a student or a faculty member needs within Illinois. Very rarely do we have to go outside of Illinois to find something. 1.8 million articles were made available to CARLI member libraries at zero direct cost. And then they also provide professional development opportunities, which is great. They've joined with other library consortia across the country to provide all of these professional development webinars and other opportunities to their members at no cost. We do have a couple of other groups in Illinois that provide support to libraries. Libris is a group, it's a organization, a group of small private liberal arts institutions up here in the Chicagoland area. And then Nil Rock supports community colleges. And these are great because academic library directors don't really have peers on campus. When you think about how a university or college's administration is organized, You'll have multiple VPs. So they may be over different areas, but they're all vice presidents. And then you'll have deans, and they're all over different areas, but they are all deans dealing with similar issues. Academic library directors, there's usually just one, right? And so you are a ship in the night. The issues that you are dealing with on your campus, very rarely is anybody else on campus dealing with that. So these Carly and Libris and Nilrock provide such important professional support because they are people who are doing the exact same job you are at institutions that are similar to yours. And so they're a lifeline. And I have like 3 different group chats with people from these organizations that we check in and we say, this is happening. Oh, this has also happened at my institution. How do we move forward with this? So what's on the horizon? And I will be sure to share this presentation with you because I did link here to a LibGuide that I think is really fascinating and explains more. So as all libraries are dealing with the rising costs of materials. So we have to buy ebooks too. They're ridiculously expensive. Academic ebooks are insanely expensive. And as I mentioned earlier, the majority of my budget comes or supports purchase of database and electronic resources. Those vendors are increasing their prices without fail every year. Doesn't matter that we don't have any money. Doesn't matter that my budget is flat every year. They're going up. So that's absolutely a challenge that we're facing. The AI conversation, especially at a college or a university, often within the academic library, we have discussions about academic integrity and plagiarism. AI plays a big role in that. So I know that these are conversations that other academic libraries are having. What to do with AI, how to approach it on your campus. Do you support it? Do you teach it? Do you allow students to use it? So these are conversations that we're having, and I honestly don't see it going away anytime soon. Campus space concerns. So imagine fewer people are using your books, more people are using your databases. So you weed, now you have more space. Space is always a concern on campus. You have people coming in, you don't have enough place to put them. And someone wanders through your library and sees a nice big open space, and they come and they put an office in there. So it feels very much like the westward expansion of the US. Like people just run in and plant flags in the library. So campus space concerns are a huge issue, and especially within the library. So trying to get in front of that, we here at Elmhurst are doing a huge weeding project. But even before we started, I already had plans for what I wanted to do with the space that was going to be created as we got rid of a good chunk of our print materials. And then predatory publishing. And just very briefly, it's a very complicated subject, but in short, there are publishers who publish journals and they use the guise of open access, right? So we provide our materials, our journal provides our materials for free or at a reduced cost, but they're charging the authors to publish within those journals. And anyone familiar with the academic process of a faculty member, you are hired, and in order to get tenure, in order to keep your job, you have to publish in your field. So faculty are required to publish, and they're in this sort of push and pull with publishers who are saying, we know you have to publish. We know we have the journal that is top in your field, and this is where you would like to publish. You have to pay us to publish in our journal. So it's an incredibly terrible situation for everyone around. So this is, again, another thing that I do not see going away anytime soon. So I wanted to just say, if you want to get involved with academic libraries, find your closest college or university and stop in. Most of the libraries are open to the public. Don't feel that you have to be a student or a faculty member to go in. And get to know the librarians, ask them questions, find out what they're doing, find out what programming they have. a lot of times we do have programs just like public libraries, and a lot of times those are open to the public as well. So that was a very, very brief overview. I will stop sharing. Overview of academic libraries in Illinois, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Hi, Carolyn. This is Monica Caldecott. I
Hi.
am a high school librarian, and I appreciate so much hearing about life on college campus. Two questions came to mind. One, a comment and question. First of all, thank you so much to you and your colleagues for caring about the whole student. It really touched my heart to hear what you're doing to give information or whatever kind of support you can for students who are facing food and housing insecurity. I know, unfortunately, it's become a joke about college kids who are so poor that, that they ate ramen every day for a month, but it shouldn't be like that. It should not be a joke. And I appreciate you caring about your students wholly. The academic question that comes to mind is maybe it's a selfish question, like, hey, do you have the same problems that I do? But I was wondering how it is that you, yes, we do. How do you reach out to your faculty and offer, pitch, encourage them to partner with with librarians for instruction or research, or please, could you write some really strong source requirements for your research project? It will help both of us.
Yes. Gosh, I could give another talk about that. I think it's a perennial problem. I think it's difficult because faculty, I think instructors at high schools, instructors in colleges, they're busy. They have stuff they're doing, and they have content they have to get out. And without it being a requirement, it's almost impossible to get into the class or to have the class come to you. We are lucky in that information literacy is a tag. So it's part of our general education, but it's also a tag for our majors. So there are courses that have information literacy connected to the class. And we use that as a way to say, hi, you have information literacy in your class. That means you should have, you can't ever tell anybody they have to have, but you should have some communication with your librarian about the class that you're teaching, the assignment that you have, support for that with the students, support for you. One of the things that we're working on is helping faculty create assignments. Like we are faculty too, we just have a different subject specialty. Let us work with you to make sure that you're getting the most out of your assignment that you can. We go to department meetings. We send so many emails to faculty. We have events or programs that are specifically for faculty where we invite them to come in, and then we, kind of tackle them and say, hey, can I come to your class? But it's something we're always working on. So unfortunately, you're not alone, but fortunately, you're not alone. Like, we're dealing with that too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn, for being with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. And as I mentioned, I will be sure to get these slides to you. So if you have questions, and my email address is in there, so feel free to email me. Thanks, everybody.
Now we will go back to the new business portion of our agenda with Monica.
Thank you, Gwen. So we're going to start out with 8.1, which is the compliance with laws update. So some of you who have been on the board for a couple of years will note that every year we give you just an updated list of the laws that really especially provide to your service here on the Rails board. Ansel Glink is good enough to update this for us each year. This is also something that we're required to review as part of our relationship to the Illinois State Library and the annual report. So just highlighting some of the changes that are here this year as opposed to previous years. So there's an updated link for the Open Meetings Act training portal that's new this year. There are updates that a public body must also post FOIA information on their website if they maintain a website. Additional prohibited activities were added to the State Officials and Employees Act for you to note. There's a recommendation that Rails contact legal counsel if any kind of type of conflict arises under the Public Officer Prohibited Activities Act. That's a new change. And so what they're essentially noting is that if there's anything that comes under this, just let us know and we can talk you through it. And then additions to the Illinois Library System Act concerning the availability of grants to improve or enhance the security of libraries, which you heard Mandy talk about earlier during the Illinois State Library report. But I did want to open it up in case there were any questions, comments, anything from the board about anything that you saw in the memo that you'd like to discuss for today. If not, it's just included here for your review and just to note that these are the things that we talk about once a year to make sure we're all aware of them. So thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing the updates. And next, Joe will discuss the intergovernmental agreement with RSA.
Yes, thank you, Gwen. Good afternoon, everyone. So there is a memo and a copy of an IGA in your packet. We want to take this opportunity to update you on the RSA Independence Project. So just to take a step back, as we have shared with the board during previous meetings, RSA has been working on achieving operational independence from Rails. This is just like other LSAPs before, such as Prairie Cat, such as Swan. From a historical perspective, and again, as a reminder, RSA was part of the Alliance Library System. We're now going back 25 years. And at the time of the system merger in 2011, RSA was fully staffed by Alliance staff members. At the time of the system mergers, 2011, Rails was created. RSA was the support staff supporting RSA transitioned into the Rails organization. So this is now in July of 2011. And at that time, Rails employed the staff of 4 of our LSAPs. Now RSA is the last remaining of the 4 LSAPs to be staffed with Rails employees. Hence this sort of independence project that they have undertaken. So over the past, say, 18 months, RSA staff, the RSA board, in consultation with some of their own outside HR consultants, as well as our own Sam Daly, HR manager, have been working on the many steps necessary for the staffing transition. So things like IMRF participation, payroll systems, creation of an RSA employee handbook, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So the IGA that appears in your packet simply formalizes this employee transition from Rails staff to RSA staff. And the IGA that you see is nearly identical to the one that we used back in 2018, 2019, when Prairie Camp went through the same process. And I think Emily,
it was so fun.
Emily, your signature, I think, is on the IGA that we
so
have.
Fun.
You must have been chair of the.
Yes.
So most of what appears in the actual IGA is fairly boilerplate. Section 3 is the language that actually speaks to the transition of staff from Rails to RSA.
Can I pause
Yes,
for a
please.
second and just let everybody know that the process was, terrible and awful, but we were so supported by Rails and it was such a good move for Prairie Cat and I hope for RSA, and it was, it could have been so much worse.
It's been a long, and certainly, certainly Kendall, Anthony, all RSA staff. It has been a long process. Now, as I've also noted in the memo, even after this transition, at least in the short to medium term, RSA will continue utilizing our office space in East Peoria, as well as the accounting services of the Rails finance staff. These services are supplemental to the LSAP support grant that we award each year, and Rails essentially deducts the cost of those services from the total grant allocation that they receive. So I do just want to take the opportunity to commend the RSA staff, and in particular RSA Executive Director Kendall Orison, who's probably fighting with a firewall right now and with RSA. This is a large undertaking and has been, and has stretched over the last really 2.5 years, starting with the sort of membership piece transition and now the employment transition. So we are very grateful for Kendall's leadership and the hard work from him, from our operations manager, Anthony Dieter, and the whole RSA team there. RSA makes resource sharing possible for so many libraries in the southern part of our service area. I know Dunlap, I know Peoria, both RSA members. We're really grateful for this hard work, and I think that we are confident that RSA has positioned themselves for sustained success and some of the things Emily mentioned relative to Prairie Cat's transition. So that is the sort of updated information I wanted to share today, but any comments or questions?
How many people are affected by that?
Well, in terms of staff, and Kendall, 9 or 10, Sharon, does that sound right in terms of RSA staff?
I believe 10 right now.
10 right now. They are looking to hire, they're going to have a need for someone in a kind of office manager position, processing payroll. So they are doing some interviews right now for a couple new positions within RSA that they will need as part of the Independence Project.
How many members are there in RSA?
A lot.
Yeah. It's
More than
a lot.
Prairie Cat?
Kendall, feel free to shout out or put in the chat because it has changed a bit. I mean,
134, he says.
It is yes, thank you. I was going to say 130, so I was close. And unlike some of the other LSEPs, there are a good number of school libraries within RSA as well. So it is big.
They are very proud of the they've got a couple of specials. They're trying to
A lot of schools.
Yeah, and a lot of schools, which is
Yep.
unique compared to some of our other LSEPs.
I had too though. So
Yes.
I'm just proud, okay?
You are proud and you should be.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Joe. Monica is next again.
So we're moving to 8.3, which is the Rails closing for staff in service days. So as Kate noted earlier in her presentation, we are planning for a 1-day staff in service day. Our last staff in service day was on May 15th at Joliet Junior College in Joliet. It was a wonderful day full of learning for our teams, especially because Rails is split over 5 different locations. It's really the 1 day a year when we get everybody together in person. And it's really a great chance to make sure that we are connecting with our colleagues and that we're connected around the mission and how we work together and serve. So what I am asking for today is for your consideration that we close Rails on May 7th, 2026 for that dedicated staff learning today. This would allow for us to be able to meet and learn together.
And I will second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Agenda item 8.4 is a new Rails member application with Dan.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we have a new member request for today. It's Hill Correctional Center, and it is a correctional facility located in Galesburg. Maybe you can look out the window and see it. No, I'm just kidding. You can't see it from the window. Okay. The library is run by Laura Krieger, and it serves approximately 1,500 inmates. They also have a law library with a law librarian and resources for those individuals. In the past, the library has not been open or consistently running. Sounds like Laura is excited to get things organized and cataloged. She is also researching art therapy, painting, drawing for users. She's very interested in Rails grants, Inky.org and Rails Classifieds, and the Civic Empowerment Networking Group, as well as Rails Continuing Education and Professional Development. So I think they would make a wonderful Rails member library. Can I answer any questions?
And are there any other jails that are in not Breakout, wow, Rails?
Yeah, I think we have 3 right now. And they're all different kind of levels of security. So I think Kiwani Life Skills Center is like the lowest security. And then I believe we have 2 other ones. One is Jacksonville and one is Joliet. And I think those are the only Illinois Department of Correctional facilities. We used to have Pekin, which was a federal correctional institution. I don't believe that they're members anymore. But the interest in correctional facility membership has sort of waxed and waned a little bit, depending on what the staffing is like at some of these institutions.
So I would just recommend you never try to donate books to a federal prison. They make you value each of them. They make you type a list of every title and every author. I just wanted to take.
Rob, I'm a librarian. That's like my favorite.
Well, all I want to do was give books to the women's prison. And
to ask the librarian to do it for you.
I wasn't on the library board then. It was the worst donation I've ever given. The process they put you through. I don't know state prisons are as bad, but a federal prison, awful.
Probably have an FBI file on you.
I'm sure they do.
Does Dan need a vote or we're just talking about?
Sure. So may I have a motion for approval of the membership for the Hill Correction Center and submittal to the State Library for final approval?
So move. Parks.
Second?
Oh.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Good, motion carries. Welcome. Next up is Monica and Joe to talk about the Capital Needs Fund.
I'm just going to offer a bit of a reminder and then I'm going to pass it on to Joe to talk since he compiled the memo information for you all. So this is just a reminder of something that Sharon had mentioned much earlier in the year, including at the orientation. This is just as a reminder in terms of the Capital Projects Fund. This is the fund that we use to do large ongoing changes. So it might be things like facilities or vehicles. And because the original capital fund was set up with the proceeds of sales of buildings, over time we have drawn down on that. And so we need to consider a transfer. We did ask Joe, since he works very closely with the facilities and delivery team, to kind of detail what those changes are. And so I'm going to pass it on to him to discuss.
So before you start, where's the money coming from to go into the capital fund?
It would be a transfer from and Sharon, correct me if the line, unassigned general fund to the capital reserve. Yeah.
Oh, and that's where you said like the sale of the vehicles went into unassigned. Okay.
So again, the request is $1.85 million from the general fund to the capital projects fund. As Monica kind of alluded to, that capital projects fund was created and established in 2014, a starting balance just north of $4 million. Over the year, we've used that fund for various sort of facility and equipment replacement projects, but to the best of my knowledge, we have not transferred any funds back into the fund since its creation in 2014. So if you see in your financials from Sharon, that fund is now sitting under $500,000, and we're looking to follow some of the recommendations from the capital needs assessment that building technology consultants did for us a couple of years ago for our Burr Ridge facility. And some of those anticipated building costs for the Burr Ridge facility, in addition to our planned replacement schedule for those high mileage delivery vehicles, which tend to always be high mileage delivery vehicles because we drive around the state so much every single day. So the amount that we are requesting is largely based on 2 things: what we believe to be somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 12 delivery vehicle replacements over the next couple of years, as well as some of the major HVAC components in Burr Ridge, which includes, and these are items that are approaching end of life. So these are things like chillers, exhaust fans, variable air volume boxes throughout the facility. As I pointed out in the memo, even after this transfer from the unassigned general fund into capital projects fund, this would still leave us in a position where we have enough in the general fund to cover 18 months of operations. And while that length of time isn't specified in any of our fiscal policies, historically it has been a threshold that Rails boards have identified as sort of a comfort level for that fund balance. So with that, obviously myself, Monica, Sharon, Mark is out there as well. Are there any questions or comments that we can take from you?
Do we have like a long-term capital investment plan? And should we be kind of setting aside a certain amount every year to invest into this fund? Make sure that we are saving enough for these big expenditures, like when we need a new building at Burr Ridge, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, so to your question, so the capital projects fund or the capital improvement plan that we received from BTC does make some recommendations on sort of annual contributions into the capital project fund. And that information partly informed the sort of $1.85 million that were requested today. Okay. But to your point, looking out, 5-7 years, there will be some larger ticket items, a roof being among them. I think that's slated for maybe 6 or 7 years, at least in terms of. So I think that we will need to make other, whether that is an annual contribution or some other kind of recurrent strategies to fund that sufficiently to care for.
And that capital assessment is for our Burr Ridge building. We are also in the process of getting a capital assessment for our Coal Valley location. That is quite a different scenario because that building is not used by quite as many staff. We did try to sell that at one point without a buyer. And so there are probably some renovations that are needing to be considered in that building as well. So we'll have a little bit more information once that's completed. But one of the things we talked about at our April meeting was also just looking longer term at the properties that we own at Rails and working with a financial.
It's always a moving target, right? Like, but to not have any plan to save the money in case we do have a plan that we want to implement is.
Yes, and so that's what Joe's discussing in terms of the recommendations that were made from BTC in terms of the amount to transfer in each year. What we're doing now is just asking you for a couple of years worth just to make sure we can cover our immediate projects. And then as we look into the further future, I think there just needs to be a little more discussion at the board level in terms of what we want to invest in, how we want to consider those properties. We have a mix of rental and owned properties here, so we don't follow just one perspective. So we want to be able to offer some financial planning that offers the board a vision of what it might look like under different scenarios further down the line. But because these are just for the next few years, we know these are needs that we're going to have. And so that's why we want to consider the transfer now. I don't know if you have other things to add, Sharon.
We looked at needs through the end of fiscal year 2028. So this would get us through the end of fiscal year 2028, conceivably, if everything in that list we actually pursue or need to pursue at that point in time.
Sorry, that is going to cover like the 6 million that we have or the 1.8 that we're transferring?
The 1.8 that we're transferring would cover until fiscal 28 capital needs.
It's not going to wipe us.
No, it will not. There will be an average, including our low point during the year of 18 months worth of coverage throughout the entire year with this transfer of unassigned funds.
I want to say kudos from 2014. You haven't put any cash.
I know.
God bless you.
That's great. Yeah. Well managed.
Is this covering like the walls, windows that are falling over in Burr Ridge?
Partly, and that's sort of an ongoing, there are kind of a few moving parts with that project. This precast wall panels, I think
But that's included in, I mean, that's going to be
and that's part of,
dealt with this money. Okay.
I am happy to move.
Second, Walsey.
Okay, so I didn't actually say this, and we didn't actually say the motion to approve the funds transfer.
Motion to approve the funds transfer. So
Second.
Stacy, will you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott,
Yes.
Jean Carroll,
Yes.
Jennifer Kutchel,
Yes.
Megan Gove,
Yes.
Glenn Gregory,
Yes.
Ron Hallahan,
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek,
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski,
Yes.
Rob Parks,
yes.
Emily Porter,
Yes.
Carolyn Sennett,
Yes.
Alex Vancino,
Yes.
Karen Wojtek,
Yes.
Yolande Wilburn,
Yes.
and Catherine Anacosky.
Yes.
Last in new business is the discussion to adopt the free speech needs free libraries joint statement. I think it's supposed to say joint statement.
Yeah, a joint statement, I think is the rejoinder they have there. So the this is 8.6. And so this actually originated because Ann Craig, who is the current executive director of Carly, joined us at our advocacy committee meeting that we had last week to kind of show and discuss the adoption of free speech needs free libraries statement that Carly signed along with Halsey and Orbis, two other organizations nationally that are chiefly concerned with the needs of academic libraries. You saw Carolyn Chesla, who discussed a lot of the issues that are currently facing academic libraries. And this statement that is really chiefly kind of concerned with some of the concerns around academic freedom and freedom of inquiry that's experienced by library users nationally. As Anne kind of discussed in the advocacy group, in Illinois, we have a lot of protections that aren't necessarily shared by other states, but as leaders, they really felt like it was important to reaffirm the needs to show how important these kind of standards and values are to academic libraries. And since Rails is a multi-type system, and we do discuss issues of all library types and brought this to the advocacy committee, the advocacy committee wanted us to bring this to you all to consider adopting as the Rails board as well. This was adapted under a Creative Commons license. So if this is adopted by the board, we'll get back in contact with Carly and ask if they would just like to add our name to the statement or if they'd like us to just, rename it and adopt it as our own, but we'll work with them on that, dependent on how they'd like to move forward. But I know there's some folks from the advocacy committee here. Anything that you want to add about our discussion?
No, I mean, I think that Anne did a great job of explaining the need and basically the things that the reasons why this came about. I just think that it's incredibly important for all of us to stand together in order to stand more strong. And you're on that committee though, I am.
I was there. I agree. No, I mean, if you're gonna adopt something, the whole membership needs to know about it. But yeah,
I think as a
you need to stand together. Yeah.
As a follow-up, I guess I'm not sure what our path would be like to promote this statement as member libraries or just as Rails. And so maybe we could workshop that at some point, but I would love to see our name on it.
Gina,
I was really proud.
Or Monica, sorry.
I was very proud that Carly as a group, that always seems like I'm saying a person's name, but Carly as a group is stepping out in front of this and trying to be a leader and encouraging other libraries and library groups just such as ours to add their names to it. So I always appreciate when our local colleagues are really the leaders and the bandstanders for that.
Any other discussion? All right, well, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the free speech needs free libraries joint statement?
I so move. Second, Karen.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. The motion carries. Thank you. So we already did 9.1. So now board members can share news from their library or area. And I would like to share, this isn't from my library, but it is from Carly, that you may have heard that Ann Craig, the senior director of Carly, is retiring at the end of the year. And recently they announced that Carly now has a new senior director designate, Lori Blandino, who is currently the executive director of LOUIS, the Louisiana Library Network. And she is going to begin work on December 8th and have some overlap with Ann. So all the academic libraries are excited to get to know her and work with her.
And one of her primary focuses is on open access education resources, which I think falls in line with our PPC initiative.
Yeah.
I like when that happens.
Be a great ad.
Any other news from board member libraries?
I suppose if we were all together, I would have just, leaned over next to Joe or something and tell him this, but as it is here, I'm telling you now. I am so happy for the EBSCO free databases from the Illinois State Library, but my library, my technology director has shared news that the Learning Technology Center of Illinois has signaled that the EBSCO databases, the agreement, the NDPA is not in line with, is not compliant with Illinois law. And so, I mean, they would have to pry my hands off those free databases, until I'm blue in the face. But it is, there might be a hiccup, and hopefully it's just a small, paperwork kind of hiccup. Because I am so grateful to the Secretary of State and to the Illinois State Library for supporting libraries with a statewide database package. And I truly hope that nothing stands in the way of all libraries and library users from using it.
Thank you, Monica. Is this a SOPA issue or something outside of that?
Yeah, SOPA.
We'll ask for some feedback on that. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
So, the Wilmette Public Library and the other local units of government came together recently last month on two important issues. One of them was regarding civil immigration enforcement. The Village of Wilmette on November 12th, so just last week, passed an ordinance. I'm going to read this because it's kind of long, but it's the only way to describe it. An ordinance in response to Operation Midway Blitz, reinforcing that building and maintaining a community that treats all persons, whether citizens, documented immigrants or not, with respect and dignity is in line with the public policy of the village and the principles upon which the United States was founded. That immigrant community members, whether citizens, documented immigrants or not, should be treated with respect and dignity by all village employees and be provided village services, calling upon the federal government to never infringe upon any individual's rights or privileges conferred upon them by the United States Constitution, including but not limited to the use of racial profiling when conducting civil immigration enforcement operations, and the right of people to peacefully assemble and otherwise engage in free speech, and resolve to define and adopt regulations limiting the extent of any federal agent to conduct any civil immigration enforcement operations on village property. The library, which is a library district, followed up and just a few days ago passed a resolution providing the use of library parking lots, grounds, and resources for civil immigration enforcement staging areas, processing locations, and/or operations bases to establish clear expectations for library visitors and staff within the district's legal means. The resolution references and aligns with the village's ordinance in an effort to help ensure that our spaces remain safe, trusted, welcoming centers for people of all backgrounds, including immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, newcomers, and undocumented residents, where all individuals may use library resources, attend programs, and access services without disruption and threat from immigration enforcement. Before our meeting, we had several guests come and speak in favor of the ordinance that had been passed, in favor of the resolution that was being considered, and also just to express their appreciation to the library and the library staff for programming. In particular, there was a virtual workshop, or not workshop, there was a virtual program from an immigrant rights organization about, I think it was called Know Your Rights, and it was advertised pretty widely within the village that it would be through the library, people could attend. And just overall expressing appreciation for library staff in kind of working to understand the issues that were happening and being helpful where they could. And after the resolution passed unanimously, 7-0, and then our president said the resolution has passed, people clapped. It was really nice. It was really nice to see. The other thing that everyone came together on was when the SNAP benefits ended on November 1st, the village, the library, the park district and came together and helped New Trier Township, which has a food pantry, come together to collect food and other items and serve as delivery places. And so also some local businesses. And apparently people were very generous, and the library was making numerous full van runs over to the pantry to drop off what had been dropped off at the library. So that was really nice to see too. And just nice to see government coming together.
Be nice to each other.
Mm-hmm, yeah, a lot of cooperation. Like it's been great.
Any other news?
Alex. Okay, Rob.
So in addition to finalizing our strategic plan for the next 3 years at our October board meeting, this past week, we have completed negotiations with our union. They will be having a ratification vote on the first week in December, and we'll have a special board meeting to ratify. There was like 4 meetings, and one of them was canceled because the negotiator for the union was ill. Last time we negotiated the contract, it took us 6 months and we had pickets. So this was much better.
Okay. All right, so our next board meeting will be on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. Please note that there is no Rails board meeting scheduled for December. Included on the January agenda will be an LSAP services overview with Ann Slaughter, and guest Heather Kachula will present on special libraries. The agenda will also include a closed session for the 6-month review of closed session minutes. Thank you all for your attendance, and have a safe drive home and a nice weekend and a happy Thanksgiving. And I will adjourn this meeting at 2:37 p.m. Thanks, everyone.